guys, it's me Brandon, and today I'm going to continue telling you about the book of Deuteronomy starting from chapter 15. God instructed the Israelites through Moses that all debts will be forgiven every 7 years. Also, if someone sold himself to another person and worked for them 6 years, on the 7th year they had to be set free. God also commanded that the Israelites should celebrate the Passover to remind them of the time when they left Egypt. This celebration lasted 7 days. To celebrate the Passover, they had to eat a lamb with bitter herbs. God ordered them to appoint judges and officials for each of the tribes in every town. These people were chosen to resolve issues fairly. God warns the Israelites not to worship other gods, like the sun, the moon, or the stars, and anyone who was found doing that would be stoned. God continued instructing the Israelites and told them about 3 rules for the kings of Israel. He had to be an Israelite, he had to have a copy of the law and read it every day so that he would not forget it or depart from it, and he had to marry Israelite women only. God instructed Israel through Moses to not imitate the way that other nations sacrificed their children, practiced divination, engaged in witchcraft, or consulted the dead. God also gives Israel instructions on war. They should not be afraid of the enemy because God will be with them. Also, people who just built a house, just planted a vineyard, were engaged, were fearful, or were just married were free from going to war. Another rule was when marrying a captive woman, the woman could not be treated as a slave. When a man had 2 wives and he preferred one more than the other, the title of the firstborn was given to the child that was born first, regardless of who it was born of. God continues giving more laws. One of them is if a person loses an object or animal, it should be returned to its rightful owner. God also instructed the Israelites that once they crossed the Jordan River, they had to pile up 12 stones and write on them the law of God as a reminder of God's promise to give them the land. God renewed the covenant with Israel, as he did with Isaac and Jacob, that he would be their God and Israel would be his people. Moses gave his 3rd speech to remind Israel all that God had done for them, like freeing them from Egypt, leading them through the desert for 40 years, and how he gave them victory in their battles, in order to encourage them to accept the covenant. Moses presents Israel the points of the covenant. He tells them about the rewards they will get if they follow the covenant, but he also showed them the consequences for disobeying the covenant. Israel had a decision to make whether they choose life and good or death and evil. Moses was 120 years old, and God had told him that he would not cross the Jordan, but Joshua would lead the Israelites across the Jordan to take possession of the land. God instructed Israel and Joshua through Moses to be strong and courageous and to not be afraid because he would be with them. Then Moses climbed the Mount Nebo, and God showed him the whole promised land. Moses died there, and God buried him. Unto this day, nobody knows where his grave is. Moses was 120 years old when he died. However, his eyes were never weak, nor his strength gone. Since then, no prophet had ever risen like Moses, whom the world knew face to face. The Israelites mourned Moses for 30 days. Then Joshua was filled with the spirit of wisdom. So the Israelites listened to him and did what the Lord had commanded. We can see how God's character is to be faithful and just. When God gave all those instructions to Israel, he wanted to protect them and give them laws so he could bless them and they could enjoy and live an organized life in the land God had given them. For example, when a person planted a vineyard, he had the option to not go to war. God wanted that person to be able to enjoy the fruits of his labor. We can see how God is so good and he wanted the best for them. In the same way, he wants the best for us. and He has great plans for you. Jeremiah 29:11 says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." Remember, God always loves you and wants to bless you. He wants the best for you. Remember to always walk in obedience with God.